Yeah, this was a huge win, and I think this was a win that demonstrated that Coach Prime can coach, that this is a cultural shift, that we have righted the ship, that the ship is going in the right direction, and who knows how much speed it can get going.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. My name's Chase. I'm here with Jake, Sreyas, and Topher. We got a full house tonight after a huge win in the Bounce House in Orlando. I have to admit, not that impressed by the Bounce House. I welcome anyone from UCF to come into our mentions for that. But for an environment that's supposed to be so scary, I've been to the Whiteout. I've been to like actual college atmospheres. Not impressed by the Bounce House. But more importantly, what a big win for Colorado. Steamrolled from top to bottom. That was a Colorado win as soon as the game kicked off. But more importantly, before we even get into the X's and O's and how the game actually went, I think we want to start off with, we have a segment for what does this win mean for the program? Because, admittedly, after the Nebraska loss, we were pretty down and not sure, is this team for real? And then we play, Colorado State and the North Dakota State win. Really hard to tell. Like, what does this team mean? That was a resounding win. And more importantly, we were 14-point underdogs. If I remember correctly, non-believers Jake and Sreyas both predicted that we were going to lose the game.
Before the
might
season.
have picked the 5-3 win or something like that. But, for a game that the national media and even Las Vegas thought Colorado was absolutely dead to rights going to lose, what an impressive win from start to finish, really. So I don't know, Sreyas, if you want to start, kind of what is this win? Because you mentioned that this kind of changes your perspective on expectations for the season.
It is a recalibration. Like this win is a recalibration. So the old mantra, what is it? Lose by a lot, lose by a little, win by a little, win by a lot. And when you look at a rebuilding program, we were doing a lot of lose by a little last year. And then we started winning by a little, other than the Nebraska game this year, which now we're really looking back at that Nebraska game, and Nebraska is playing a lot better than TCU did last year after we beat them. So it looks like that actually is going to be a quality win. So with that in mind, and you look at the fact that they're very clearly getting better, because they're able to run the ball now, and they're able to stop the run enough, right? So UCF is a run-first team, and so they're going to get yards. Their quarterback's running the option, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. They got RJ Harvey, who's a stud, but we limited them to 177 yards. That still sounds like a high number, but compared to like the 400 yard games that they were getting before this, which they need to operate that offense, that would be considered stopping the run. And that was kind of the expectation coming in. If we held them under 200, then we look good. Coming into this game, also don't forget that UCF had amongst, depending on which metric you're looking at, the highest odds or one of the highest odds to win the Big 12. The computers were super high on UCF. And to come into their house, which a lot of UCF fans tweeted at us and told us, oh, we don't lose at the Bounce House. There's something like 41-6 at the Bounce House since 2017 or something. 24, what is it, 41-7 now, right? I mean, but not just in a milquetoast, barely won on a Hail Mary type of deal, right? We stomped them. Someone put up this, I think it was Brian Howell tweeted the statistic.
You could say we bounced.
What was that?
You could say we bounced him. Sorry.
We did. Yeah. We did.
Brian Howell statistics. Sorry, I'm throwing us off.
No, you're good. Our biggest road win since 2005. We had one. I can't believe how bad at math I am for an engineer, but like we almost beat Arizona by as much in 2016, but Arizona was terrible that year. They were 2-8 in that game. So Oklahoma State in 2005, I think, was the last time we had a win that big. What a statement. What a recalibration to do it in front of a lot of naysayers who were getting ready to drop receipts and talk so much smack about this program and Coach Prime and what a terrible job they're doing, and to just come out and flat out destroy them. The recalibration is insane. And if you look at the outlook for the rest of the season, we went from being underdogs in every game to being favored in every game other than Kansas State right now. That's how much more do you need to know about a recalibration? This is monumental.
Yeah, Sreyas, I'm gonna again, you say great things and then you forget to bring them up on the podcast. But to set the stage, the pick with Preston Hodge, it was that fade in the end zone, a one-on-one play. Preston Hodge gets the pick. Sreyas turns to me. We were watching the game together and goes, what does that remind you of? And we like unanimously say Oregon.
Akella Witherspoon.
Akella Witherspoon, Oregon, to set the stage. This is back in 2016. We were all at CU then. To set the stage even further, when I was a freshman, I think CU won 4 games. When I was a sophomore, CU won 2 games. When I was a junior, CU won 4 games. So we were really bad going into that game versus Oregon. We had a bunch of seniors that year in 2016, and we somehow beat Oregon on the road, which was unheard of for CU. Again, we never won more than 5 games leading up to that. And
Steven Montez's first start too, isn't it?
It was Steven Montez's first start.
Steph was hurt. Well, we've never experienced anything like that as CU fans, and we thought that could be a catalyst. So it was that evening, I believe, we organized a bunch of students to go to Folsom Field and welcome the team as they come back to Boulder. And it was that game that was the catalyst for the 2016 season in which CU was ranked in the top 10. There was whispers that they could maybe get into the playoff when it was a 14 playoff. The season didn't really end quite how we wanted, but it was a phenomenal season. And this kind of felt the same way. This UCF game felt the same way when that pick happened. It's like, okay, we might have something going here. This team has been, at least half of the team has been together for 1 year now. They're all older. They know the gravity of this season, right? This is the last season you get Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shiloh Sanders, pretty much all your stars. This is the last season you get them. So you got to lay it all out on the table. And to go into the bounce house, UCF, Sreyas said it, who was one of the top projected teams of the Big 12, and to beat them by, how much did we beat them by? More than
27.
27 points when the spread was 14. We almost doubled the spread for UCF.
In reverse.
That's unreal. Vegas did not get it. Vegas got it so wrong. And I woke up this morning and saw that CU is now projected, according to ESPN FPI, to win every single game they play except for Kansas State. This is program defining. Also think about the recruiting front. UCF invited 100 recruits to their stadium, and I bet a good handful of them came for Coach Prime. And there was a post of some recruit saying that he had a quote saying, Coach Prime told me to come down for the game to come and see us. So this is a huge moment for recruiting. You're just going to get a ton of momentum in recruiting, a ton of momentum for the season. This was a huge, huge game for the CU football team program. Also, another slight aside, but Travis Hunter builds his Heisman campaign even further with that phenomenal pick, and that is also program defining. If he wins the Heisman, I mean, even if he gets invited to New York, that's going to be really big momentum for recruiting and for this program. This win was big. I cannot understate how big this win was. UCF won the national championship 2-3 years ago. They were undefeated.
Nah, it was like 7 years ago now.
2017. They won't let you forget it.
And they didn't win anything, for the record.
Like they won every year.
Callie
national
Matrix.
They just made up
Callie
a national
Matrix.
championship.
Yes. But needless to say, this is huge. Program defining. Again, UCF is a top team in the Big 12. This team could beat anyone. As we've seen over the weekend, anyone in the Big 12 is beatable. And this Kansas State game is going to be one of the biggest games potentially in CU history. I'm going to say that. And we'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about it next week. You can, yeah.
Hot takes. Hot takes.
But real quick before Topher goes, you mentioned FPI. I just pulled it up. CU moved up 24 points in FPI, and they moved up from a projection of 5-7 to 8-4 in one game. That's how big of a win this was. Huge.
I have to
Massive.
defend my take really quick. I said one of the biggest games. Again, national championship, a ton of historic games versus Nebraska.
What are you talking about? Biggest
This
game
is just in
such
program. A bad take. You should just cut it
This is
off.
such a
here.
bad
Like,
take.
there's no reason
you
to go-
gotta backpedal out of this
If they
one.
win this game against Kansas State, it's going to be astronomical.
They win this game against Kansas State, we'll be 4-1, and we still have to win it because
5.
if we want to get through it. But yeah, 5-1.
And on our way.
But Topher, you go first, and before Jake.
Before we get more, I
that
think
UCF game was
you
bigger
guys.
than the national championship win. Sorry.
Jesus Christ, we're gonna clip that for sure.
Good
Yeah,
Lord.
this was a huge win, and I think this was a win that demonstrated that Coach Prime can coach, that this is a cultural shift, that we have righted the ship, that the ship is going in the right direction, and who knows how much speed it can get going, right? I think the announcers said it best when you see the other Big 12 teams looking at us and they're like, oh my God, they can run the football. That's exactly what everyone's thinking. Oh my God, they figured out how to run the football. Oh my God, they still have Travis Hunter. Oh my God, they still have the best quarterback in the nation. Oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because we're coming.
Yeah, and I
Mic
think
drop.
the interesting thing that the people on the broadcast were talking about that most people probably heard, but to win the Heisman, you historically need to go at least 9-3 in the regular season. You just don't see Heisman winners, especially lately, on losing football teams. And so for Travis to have a chance, this was also a huge win from that component. I think that shouldn't be lost. We really need to win, in my opinion. I think if we went 8-4 this year, Travis has a chance at the Heisman, especially if he continues putting up stats like he does. And I get it. The Heisman is the best player in college football. On that metric, Travis Hunter is clearly should be the Heisman frontrunner. But at the end of the day, he's not a quarterback. And at the end of the day, you need to be on a winning football team to win the Heisman. And so these kinds of wins are really important for that. I think, the media narrative around it is really starting to build momentum. And you've seen that in the betting odds, right? He was at 27-1, I think, before North Dakota State, and he's fallen all the way down to somewhere around, I think he's 8-1 now or 7-1. So really big progress on that as well.
But what do you guys think he needs to do to get the Heisman? Do you think it's just the wins?
I think we need to win 8 games. I think he keeps playing like he has. I think he wins the Heisman at that point. If he keeps playing like he has, and assuming Cam Ward doesn't do something.
Touchdown or an interception every game, I think is also a must.
Yep. But I think the other component is we have to, not to be the Debbie Downer here, but it's weird because Jake is actually being positive. So I do have to take a step back. If you remember our episode last week, we said UCF is not that impressive of a football team. They haven't played anyone, and that's still true, right? They've played Colorado now. But before that game, UCF was really hyped, but had not proven anything on the field, right? So before we completely lose our minds and totally recalibrate everything, we need to remember that we can't say last week, oh, we're not that impressed by UCF's resume. We think we have a chance. And then this week be like, we just beat Alabama football, right? Like that's not what happened here. And that's why I'm hesitant to say. And the other thing is like Kansas State has had some games where they don't look that good, right? So winning against Kansas State is not enough to just punch the ticket, right? And I think the component of that is the Big 12 is hopefully, but probably not a 2-bid league, right? In order to win and get into the college football playoff this year, in my opinion, you need to win the Big 12 or at least plan on doing so, right? And who knows, if Colorado and Utah neck and neck, whatever, right? There's ways that we could get a second bid, but Colorado needs to play as if there's only one way into the college football playoff, and that's winning the Big 12. And so I don't think it matters, which games you win. You need to win enough games to get in that Big 12 championship game. But with the amount of parity that we're seeing in this conference, you don't necessarily need to win every game, right? BYU looks really good. I don't know if you saw their game. Baylor actually gave them a little bit of a scare there at the end, which is good for, making me feel a little bit better about our win against Baylor. But Colorado's doing the things that we really needed to see after that Nebraska loss. And we've seen some people complaining on Twitter about, oh, well, why is Colorado not ranked after that win against UCF? Well, a couple of reasons. One, we don't know if UCF's for real or not, but going into the bounce house and beating them like that is still really impressive. I don't want to take anything away from that win, and we'll talk more about the actual game later. But the other component is that Nebraska game was very public and it was very embarrassing, and we got the absolute brakes beaten off of us. And so we need to go out there and prove that was an anomaly and not, the team that we are, right? Things didn't go our way. In this game, things went our way, right? On third down, we found a way to convert on third down. We found ways to get turnovers. We found ways to get to the quarterback, and we should talk about that more later. But we hadn't been getting sacks. And then, in this game, all of a sudden we're getting the quarterback getting home. It makes a difference, right? Gus Malzahn, before this game started, said, we need to get 250 yards rushing to win this game. Well, that's probably still not enough yards, right? Even if they gotten 250 rushing yards, they wouldn't have been able to do that. But Colorado was able to go in there and set the tone and establish our game on the opponent instead of trying to react to the opponent setting their stamp on us. And that's the difference between really good football teams and football teams that are just mediocre getting by. And that was the big impressive thing for me, right? Is we went into UCF and they want to run first. And basically from the get-go, we punched them in the mouth and got that interception. And we said, you're going to have to play by our game. And, KJ was not able to do that, and we were able to establish our brand and win. So that's the bigger thing for me. I don't think this is like a program defining win just yet. I think it is a very positive swing in the right direction. I do think it recalibrates everything, but I think we also need to remember we have no idea what kind of team UCF is just yet when you look at the history. But regardless, that's a good win for the team, and we're seeing some things gelling, right? The offensive line looks a lot better. The defensive line is awesome. The defense generally looks awesome. So and I don't want to get on my soapbox for too long, but I think like those are the things we need to be thinking about, right? Is how is this going to impact our season? But also we need to keep our sights on the prize, which is winning the Big 12 and getting a playoff spot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's maybe a more level-headed take that a lot of people are forgetting about right now, because everyone, I mean, gosh, with how much one-sided smack talk was happening that previous week from not just UCF fans, but from programs all over the country, fans of programs all over the country, like, all right, this is the moment that CU gets exposed. And oh my God, our good friend Bud Elliott, who has blocked us. Oh,
former
so
friend,
sorry,
Sreyas.
Sorry, Bud, for offending you by saying hi this morning. I just said hi to you, dude. That's it. That's all I was saying.
He's blocking everyone from CU. Are you even a CU fan if you're not blocked by Bud Elliott at this point?
He's soft. He's so soft. But this dude was sitting. His drafts were probably full. Like when you look back at how much shit he was talking during that Nebraska game. I mean, he was saying some flat out flagrant and disrespectful stuff, right? He was referring to insinuating that Dion, Shador, and Shiloh were literally just trying to make money for themselves by being in Boulder. Like, wow, what a ridiculous thing to insinuate. Like, what a ridiculous thing to insinuate. Like, with how much negative press there was, I understand why people would want to put some crappy opinion like that out there. But man, that's messed up. You're supposed to be a journalist or something, and you're going to throw personal shots like that, and you wonder why they're, CU's so taking some of these things so personally with the media to come out and absolutely destroy UCF after all of that. I mean, like I said, these guys had their drafts ready to go and just talk and talk and talk. Joel Klatt was the one who actually tweeted, and he's like, wow, timeline's really quiet today. Just from that perspective, you can tell that there's a shift. I saw CSU beat writers talking about how, this Buffs team kind of looks good. Sorry, guys. They kind of look good. And I was like, see, all right, we're all coming. We're all on board the hype train now. So just from like the emotional side of it, we can't discount the impact that this had on the overall narrative. And given how negative it was and how clearly everyone knew that this was just fake. They knew that this was fake, that CU is a fraud and they weren't going to beat anyone and they almost lost to an FCS team and blah, blah, blah. We're here now, right? We here now. That's huge.
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
And let's go into the game itself. 48 points. We'll talk on the offensive side first. Somehow we're going to have scored 48 points, and Jake is going to say that Pat Shurmur is still a problem and not coordinating well. And despite the fact that 2 episodes ago, and maybe we can go pull the receipts, Jake said the only way you can ever evaluate an offensive coordinator is based off the number of points they score. 48 points is pretty impressive.
They had a good game. I can't say anything.
And 41 points for the offense. Thank you very much.
41 points for the offense. But before we break it down, let me just read some quick stats. 290 yards passing for Shador Sanders. It seems like if he's not getting 300 yards at this point, it's almost a disappointment. 3 touchdowns. Did have an interception that might be worth talking about a little bit more. But more importantly, on the running side, 128 yards rushing on 29 carries. More rushing carries than passes this game. I think Jake's about to fall over in his chair. He's so excited about it. Some quick shout outs. 4 receptions, 99 yards for Will Shepherd, 1 yard short of that 100, but with a touchdown. Travis again with 9 receptions, 89 yards, 290 yards total receiving, obviously, for that side. What an impressive performance by the offense all around. What good balance by the offense all around. What a way to find ways to convert on 2nd and long. There's some times where we got penalties, and I was like, man, this is where it falls apart, right? we've all kind of been there where we've seen it, where you go get the holding penalty or it comes back. Or I think there was like an illegal formation at one point where we got a 5-yard penalty and kept moving back. And for the most part, there was a couple times where I think at one point we had like a 3rd and 35 or something crazy. But other than that, for the most part, we were able to find a way to convert there. Any thoughts just generally about the offensive performance on Saturday?
It was what we wanted to see. We wanted to see balance. We wanted to see good protection. They only gave up 2 sacks, but I think even that number is it felt a little deceiving to me when I said, oh, they gave up 2 sacks. It didn't feel like there was as much incessant, constant pressure. That's one thing that a lot of people who look at the face value stats didn't realize about how truly atrocious the offensive line was last season, and even some of the rough performances this year. It wasn't just the actual sack numbers. It was the pure hurries, the hits, the knockdowns. On almost every play, it felt like that was the case. Yesterday, it did not feel like that. It felt like Shedeur had a clean pocket more often than not, and that's how he was able to unload on some of those long balls to Will Sheppard. Thank goodness for Will Sheppard, for his own confidence having a game like that. That was awesome to see. What an amazing over-the-shoulder catch on that touchdown. That was huge. That was the moment for me where I was like, oh, okay, we might be rolling today if this just happened. That was my first moment, because before that, it was kind of, we punched them. I think Travis got the first touchdown. They punched back with the 75-yard touchdown.
Immediately, yeah.
And then that Will Sheppard, it was on a 3rd down too, I believe. So if he dropped it, then we're punting, and here we go again, like the vicious CU cycle of death that we've seen so many times. But no, what a huge catch. But I really want to give the offensive line so much credit for that happening. Because
it feels like Phil Lodehold must have done like a culture change, because it used to be if they lost their block and they're getting after Shedeur, they would kind of just give up. Like they'd be like, oh, I gave up a hurry or a sack. Now it seems like they trust Shedeur to try to evade and make some space, and they're running over, and they might have missed the block originally, or the guy got off of them. But more often than not, you see our line like running back there and clobbering the guy while they're running after Shedeur, and Shedeur just needs a little bit of time and space, and normally he can find someone downfield. So I definitely like that culture shift a little bit as well as being able to just punch him in the mouth with the running block.
Yeah. And with the line, we saw some new faces in the starting lineup as well. I think, who was it? Benson was hurt. The tackle. So I don't know if it was the new faces. I think it's more UCF's D-line isn't the best in college football. I know we talked about that the week before. But one stat I heard recently, which got me really jazzed up, is PFF grade that I heard. And again, take PFF with a grain of salt. I like PFF. I think they do a good job. They said that Jordan Seaton in that UCF game before he got hurt, I think he came back in after he was hurt, but his PFF grade was a top 20 grade in the country for O lineman. And he's a freshman. That's something to be excited about. Jordan Seaton's really great, and he's only getting better. He still gets a couple false starts here and there and some holds. He had one of those with UCF. So I'm sure he's going to clean that up as he gets older, but I'm really excited about Jordan Seaton.
Yeah.
And I swear he looks bigger every time, like each consecutive game, it looks like he's getting bigger, and maybe he legitimately is, but yeah, I feel like he's filling into that role. And by the time, sophomore, junior year roll around, he's going to really fill in as a true, tackle. I don't think he's going to be here past his junior year, to be honest. Like
no chance. He's a first rounder.
Yeah.
He's a first rounder for sure.
But hey, we'll take it while we got it.
Absolutely. The offense, the thing that I appreciated the most out of the offense from Pat Shurmur was the creativity in the run game.
Whoa.
We found a counter that we liked, and we spammed that counter over and over and over and over again, right? Like they could not figure out how to stop it. But if you on the rewatch, for those that want to watch it more closely, it comes out in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. The tight end is off the line to the left. And then you have the running back to your right, and it's just a counter. You'll hand it to the running back, and the tight end and our guard come and pull, and the whole line shifts down. It's the play that Dallin Hayden scored on. Micah got a big run off of it. And we were like, we love this. They kept slanting their D line, and we just took advantage of it. So that was kudos to Pat Shurmur there. And then we didn't really have to change up until the second half. And when we did, Isaiah Gustav took advantage and also found massive holes in we started to put together plays where there was reasoning. A couple episodes ago, I said there felt like there was no reasoning and no rhyme or reason to the play calling. There was definite rhythm here because we came out in that same look in a counter, and then we just ran a straight zone. See if they kept on their feet for Gustav's couple runs. We looked like we were running an RPO. They ran it like an RPO, but it was definitely a run the whole time because there was no one in the pattern. We scored on the same same play twice. Micah Welch's touchdown. He handed it off the first time. The second time, Shador pulled it and tossed it to Wester. It's exactly the same look. Pat Shurmur was absolutely in his bag this game, and it was a thing of beauty.
And the disciples of Pat Shurmur continue to grow. It was admittedly quite lonely for a while there. I felt like I might be the last person on earth. I think it was me and David Talks Buffs, and it was us against the world. And now the disciples grow, and the word of Pat Shurmur continues to move on. One thing
I'm the word of film, my guy. I'm the word of film.
Whatever it takes to get you on board. But I do think, I think it's worth mentioning Will Shepherd had that game, and Sreyas kind of mentioned or alluded to this earlier, where it was so important for his confidence, where he stands up and says, I'm back. And I read somewhere on Twitter that, Dion went over to him and said, you were never gone, like you're not back. You were never gone. But I think Dallin Hayden also has, scoring that touchdown, his first touchdown as a Buff. I know he had high expectations for himself, and he should. He's a stud, but I think there was some frustration there, especially with the injury. And so to see him be able to go in and get a touchdown as well, I thought that was kind of cool. Both of those guys were guys that really needed to get a touchdown under their belt. There's just too many playmakers, not enough touchdowns to go around. Even when we're scoring touchdowns like crazy, not everyone can, get the touches that they deserve. But I thought that was pretty cool as far as, for building and for as far as what does this game mean for the rest of the season. I think that's something worth considering as well.
Yeah. Before we move on to defense, also we got to shout out Isaiah Gustav, 4 carries for 39 yards. Those 10 yards per carry were huge. And I think that Topher, some of those runs you were alluding to were Isaiah Gustav. That was huge. That game consisted of the most consistent long runs that we've seen in the Prime era. And so I was talking about narrative busting. Another common narrative that was super frustrating as a CU fan that we saw repeated over and over again, including by us. I think we said this too. Oh, he's just trying to get his son yards. So that's why they're not running the ball. They're running the ball now. I love that. So I love the narrative busting. Like, that's another huge part of this. It was just a wake-up call for a lot of people. But yeah, anyways, I'll let you guys move on to the next topic here.
Yeah, and just to add to it, we're finally getting big gashes in the running game, and it is so satisfying. An offense needs that to get 10-plus yards on the running game every once in a while. But yeah, shifting to defense, what did you guys think of the defense only giving up 21 points? UCF going into this game was the number 1 rushing offense in college football. There were talks that RJ Harvey was the best running back in the Big 12, which is a big thing to say because Ollie Gordon is a phenomenal back. I think he's the highest rated back in college football, 25. And KJ Jefferson's also a beast in the running game, just a big guy, tough to bring down. What did you guys think?
Quick one. Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I was just going to say, I think this was the game where I really believe, I know we've looked really good against the run, but this is the game where I am 100% convinced that this team is really, really good against the run. And we already know that our secondary, you're not going to have a team coached by Deion Sanders that's not going to have an elite secondary. And so the question, and especially with last year with the problems we had with defending the run, was, is that going to be something that we can fix? And I think the answer at this point is clearly yes. We have really held, even the Nebraska game, it didn't feel like we were getting killed necessarily on the run. And KJ Jefferson is a true, RJ Harvey, I get it. He's not Ollie Gordon. I think that's probably a little over the top, but he's a very, very good running back. He is a definitely play on Sundays running back. And he still got 77 yards, which, there's that component. But that's where that was their live or die. Like I said, Gus Malzahn said, we have to at least get 250 yards rushing to win this game. And so you knew that was going to be the strategy. And KJ Jefferson, as we saw, is definitely a guy that can get around with his legs and hurt you more than a lot of the teams we've seen. And the fact that they got absolutely stuffed for the majority of the night on the run game, right? It's not you're going to completely stop them, but if you can limit them and prevent those big run plays and the big gashing run plays that really hurt your momentum as a defense, I think we're totally legit. I think this defense is very, very good. I think the offense gets all the hype, but I think the defense is actually, I don't know, maybe this is too hot of a take. I think the defense is the strength of this team this year. And I don't know if that's something that you guys agree with or not, but that is insane to think about. Like with the talent of our skill group, this defense looks so for real. And I think they really are. And they're finding ways to get it done. Even when they're, a lot of these games in the past, they were getting horrible field position to start. That didn't really happen this game. And look at what they were able to do. They find ways to get turnovers when they need to. They find ways to actually start sacking the quarterback, which was huge. KJ Jefferson I think he's like 260 pounds. He is not an easy guy to sack, let alone, he's got legs and he can really hurt you. So the fact that we were getting home on KJ Jefferson, I don't know. I'm blown away. I think this defense is really, really good. And this was the game where I'm finally like 100% a believer. You gave up 7 points a quarter, gave them nothing in the fourth quarter. You had, 2 drives where they were basically on your 5-yard line. One of them we ended up scoring on, and one of them you just stuffed them completely. I mean, how do you not believe in this group?
Yeah. We're talking about, I just got to keep talking about narrative killers. Another thing that we heard a lot was the second half against Nebraska didn't mean anything because Nebraska decided to switch to a very vanilla game plan, and we stopped a very vanilla game plan. Therefore, that was not any indication that there was adjustments made and that there was an improved position group. And then we heard CSU is terrible, so whatever happened there didn't matter. Fair. Okay, that's fair. And then we heard Baylor, same type of thing. Oh, they still had some big plays. Like you still needed a Hail Mary. You almost lost to them. Even though a lot of that was special teams, right? If you look at the yardage discrepancy, we still actually outgained them by over 100 yards. This one is another narrative shift. We had 5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. So 13 tackles for loss is huge here. That means you're getting penetration, right? You have to be getting penetration. How could you be getting that many backfield tackles if you weren't getting penetration? But another thing that we got to look at with these tackles is a lot of these are half tackles for loss. Absolutely swarming the ball carrier. And there were a couple times where they bit, and KJ Jefferson took advantage of it and got, pulled the ball back to himself and got some yards. That's going to happen. That's going to happen when you have like an option offense that you're playing against. But they were so disciplined. And they were swarming, absolutely swarming. And if we keep doing that, I think we got to keep shouting out Dalton Wasserman from Pro Football Focus. He was the one who said this first last week. But if CU keeps stopping the run at this level, we're going to have some interesting conversations. And those conversations are definitely being had right now because not only did we win, this was a dominant performance against a team that commits to the run, and we just choked the life out of them, basically. It was incredibly impressive to me.
It was impressive to stop the run, but I think what was more impressive was the physicality, right? Particularly of Nakai Hill-Green. Oh my God, I'm so thankful I'm not KJ Jefferson today because he is beat to hell. Every time he ran the ball, we made him pay. Every time he held the ball too long, we made him pay. Even if he didn't have the ball, we'd still give him a hit, and we'd let him know, hey, we're coming. And
even when he scored the touchdown, right? I think he took a pop when he ran in the touchdown.
Hit him anyways. DJ McKinney had a hit on him. I'm like, oh, my God, that was targeting. And it wasn't, which is great. But holy moly, that dude has got to be so sore today. And that's just on the defense willing to pin their ears back and go and get it and let them know that, hey, you say you're good at the run, prove it. You have to prove it. You have to run through us. And not just one of us, all of us. I thought it was very impressive. And then our DBs were just strapped all day. Preston Hodge was amazing. DJ McKinney had a great comeback game. And obviously Travis Hunter's him. I know that Jake wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth on the interception. So Jake, tell me about what you saw with Travis Hunter.
He's unreal. To quote Mark Johnson, he's an alien. He's just a different animal. So I'm going to do some on the fly film review just to show how incredible this interception was. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. Can you see the film?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're listening, I'll try to do my best to describe it for our audio listeners, but you have Travis Hunter up here at the top of your screen. The defense is a cover 2 defense, meaning your safeties are going to drop back in a zone back here. So they're your 2 safeties. Travis Hunter, you'll see his zone here is a flat. The other corner right here is also a flat zone. And then your 2 middle linebackers, not middle linebackers, your 2 linebackers are going to zone over the middle. And then this other linebacker, I believe, is a QB spy. But if we hit play here, you can see UCF's bringing motion to get this other receiver up top. And it's essentially 3 receivers going towards Travis. You got this guy going on a deep cross. Number 3 here is going on a wheel route, which a wheel route is one of the weaknesses of cover 2, right? So you have to cover the middle. So you'll see this safety, I believe that's Cam, picks up this guy going straight up the gut. This wheel route actually opens up because that's not Travis's zone. But look how good of a job he does here. First covering this first receiver, and then notices it's a wheel route and starts covering that back. And then quickly realizes, okay, these guys are going, my safeties are going to help me. Granted, you'll see here, this guy gets wide open, but that's just the coverage that we're playing. That's the weakness. And then Travis realizes this third receiver is coming out in a flat, out to the flat, just for the short pass there. Look how deep he is. He comes in about 7 yards, plays the cover 2 perfectly, plays that flat zone perfectly, makes that incredible diving catch. He's different, man. And then at the end of this, runs all the way down, does the Heisman pose. I'm not going to show that on video because we've all seen it. He's just a beast. He is unreal. I wanted to show that because it was textbook coverage there.
And I think, like, if you're a young aspiring cornerback, like I'm sure we have a ton of listening, but what Travis does better than almost any DB I've ever seen is he is always keeping his hips open and he is always facing the ball, even when he's moving back in coverage, right? And that's what allows him to see these things coming. And that's definitely a film. We've talked about it before, probably beating it to death, but Travis is getting interceptions from film review. Like he knows the plays, he recognizes them, he keeps his hips open, he can see where he can see where the receivers are going, but more importantly, he can see where the quarterback is looking. And KJ probably missed his guy, but ended up making them pay with that interception. And then you're incredibly athletic, even though you've run 90% or 95% of the plays in the game. And so you're able to make a diving catch like that because, like Jake said, you're just an alien. Like, what an unbelievable textbook top to bottom play. Topher was, I can't remember if you were a safety or a corner in high school.
I was corner.
I mean, you can't. A coach would lose their mind about keeping the hips open and always keeping your eyes up, and just unbelievable textbook performance on top of all the athleticism and on top of the football IQ and on top of the work ethic of getting the film review done. It's the whole.
This isn't a one-off. That's not a one-off either, because he had a very similar interception against TCU last year that made everyone's eyes blow out of their heads.
And UCLA, same coverage.
And UCLA, that's right. I do. Wow.
Him in cover 2 flats is a cheat code, right? Or cover 6. If they run in cover 6, cover 2, whatever, right? Him in the flats is dangerous. No matter what you do, you're wrong. And he has just a sense to sit there and if I'm a quarterback and I sit over there and like, oh, he's playing flats, I can't even look at that side of the field anymore. Because no matter where I throw, it's wrong. If he threw the wheel route, I guarantee you Travis is athletic enough to go and pick that off too. He was incredible.
Even the announcer at some point, I think it was a wheel route, but Travis gets up, almost intercepted it. And the announcer was like, you just can't throw at him, because if you do it, it's Travis's ball and you're lucky to get away with it. And it's crazy to me how frequently teams are continuing to try. Colorado State did it. UCF is doing it. Like, they keep trying to challenge. Like, what more does he have to prove? Like, how many times does he have to burn you before teams finally go, you know what, we're just not going to throw it to that side of the field because he's just so dominant in that aspect.
In UCF's defense, the jump ball try was to their number 1 receiver, and that number 1 receiver, he is like Travis. He's their version of Travis. He makes incredible plays.
He might be their Travis.
He's not their Travis. He's not our Travis.
He was locked down. Didn't he only have like 1 reception that game? I got to pull it back up.
He only had one off. Yeah, he only had one off of Travis, though. The other one, I think, was off ball.
But the other thing I wanted to add, CU also doesn't run zone, right? When it's man-to-man, they're not even throwing to Travis. And the few times they do zone, Travis is phenomenal. So it's fun to see.
And think
Yeah.
about, I mean, Travis has to, and I get like, being a corner, there's so much you have to remember just on that aspect. But Travis also has memorized the entire offensive playbook. And so he needs to know and watch the film to know where he needs to be on defense. But he also needs to know where and what to do to succeed on offense. It's just like, it's so unbelievable how he's able to do it and still manage a super successful YouTube channel and in a super successful TikTok and, go fishing. And he's just like the whole package. As far as Man Crush Monday goes, because I think we'll probably release this on Monday. He's my number one today, and probably every Monday until he gets drafted to the Packers or something horrible. So,
Dude, he'd probably be better at my job than I am. Honestly, like
I was gonna say, we love
We're
to
just
shout
fun.
out our nerds. Travis Hunter's a nerd, 4-0,
Yeah.
and memorizes both
Yeah.
playbooks.
I could
You
I
know,
mean I could probably
speaking
give
of
up
engineers, speaking of engineers, BJ Green had a phenomenal game too.
DJ.
And I
What
can't,
a
I can't
transition.
even,
What a
we
transition,
can't overlook
Topher.
that. Thank you. He had a couple of plays where he didn't make the tackle, but he was directly responsible for the tackle happening in the backfield because he sealed that edge over and over and over again, and he stayed home. I can't sing BJ Green's praises enough. He had a great game.
The
I'll
entire
also point out turning
Sorry, go
the head, or DBs turning their heads on passes and getting picks. It wasn't just Travis. Travis did it, but
and
Preston
not
Hodge.
pulling PI penalties. I mean, that's how you do it. You get your head around and you defend the ball. Don't defend the guy.
I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. It feels like every NFL DB does it, but it seems like it's a little bit more rare in college. I wonder if it's an instinct thing or like you're paranoid because if you turn, maybe if it's over your head, you look like an idiot and you just get burned or something. But if our guys are doing that now, ooh, man, that is scary. And that, yeah, I know we already talked about the Preston Hodge pick, but that Preston Hodge pick really was it was a huge momentum swing because Shador obviously opened the game with a terrible interception. It was just that was so bad. That first possession left everyone thinking that this was about to be Nebraska again. Don't lie, all of you guys were thinking it, right? It felt
1000%. I said it out loud. Here we go again. This is Nebraska 2.0.
I was blissfully at a wedding. So by the time I was able to finally check my phone, we were already winning. And then I got to rewatch the game. And I have to almost recommend it because I watched that game with zero stress. I knew exactly how it was going to end. And I just got to see how it happened and, get prepared for this episode.
Oh, it's wonderful. But yeah, Preston Hodge, that pick really, really changed the game a lot. That could have started getting, I mean, we could be sitting here talking about the opposite type of thing just from momentum. If the defense continued to play the way they did the rest of the game, then maybe not. But man, we really, really needed that. That was huge.
And Jake refuses to do it for me, even though I know he knows how to pronounce this name. But I have to give a shout out to Chidozie Nwankwo because he was so I'm gonna give myself some flowers for that one. But he doesn't pop off on the stat sheet. But if you watch the game, he has so much impact. As far as Sreyas was talking about, as far as getting push, right? He is always so good about getting push, and he seals up the middle of that line. And so I just think the D line, both of our edges were playing really well. But the nose guard is not exactly the most sexy position. I'm trying to remember our nose guard that we had back in 2016 or whatever that everyone kind of liked. But generally people don't remember the nose guard, and so it's nice
Josh
to see.
Tupou?
Not to he was a transfer, only played for us 1 year, but now I can't remember. But regardless, forgotten to the sands of time. So if you want to be famous, don't become a nose guard. But if you want to have big impact on the running game, that's the place to be. So I just wanted to give a shout out there. I don't know if we're ready. I'm going to transition us to special teams to talk about.
Quick other point. And Dayon Hayes was hurt. We had a bunch of guys hurt this game, and just the way that this team stepped up was great. I think Dayon Hayes is one of our best D linemen, so I just had to shout that out. This D line stepped up big time.
Arden Walker, his backup, had a hell of a game.
Yeah.
How many times did we say Arden Walker's name, G?
Walker. Yes. Me and Sreyas were like, who was that? I'm like, Arden Walker.
Arden Walker.
He was
kid.
Him wearing number 53. I was like, ooh, that looks good. I love it. I love it when a 53 is out there making plays.
All right. Well, now it's time. Now that Jake usurped my build up, my hype up moment. But speaking of people where it was very lonely, being the last believer on earth, it was really me against the world. Topher personally challenged him and gave him locker room material, doubting to the extreme. But through the night, worry not, I was still there for you, Mr. Alejandro Mata, who was absolutely nails that game. What was he on? I mean, with PATs, it must have been like 800.
6 for 6.
Yeah, 6 for 6, a long of 46. Haters, i.e. Topher, have been saying 46 yards, he can't do that. I knew he could, and we believed in him. And because we believed in him, he could. And you know what? That 46-yarder was probably good from 50 at least, probably a little bit further. That was awesome. The special teams also
At sea level.
At sea level.
At sea level.
And I have been I've been behind Alejandro Mata, and because of that, I decided I could not also defend Mark Bassett, but I have to give him a shout out. He played very well as well. He had a great game as far as I think he only punted twice, if I remember correctly, but both of them were great. 3 times, excuse me. And one of them, I think he pinned him at the 8-yard line. So special teams very improved. And funny enough, we were talking about this. Special teams needed to improve badly. Special teams improved, and all of a sudden we're beating teams like crazy. So, I don't know if we have a ton of content on that, but we did have to.
We have content.
We had to relish. Of course, Topher has content on special teams, but we did have to relish on how good special teams was. And Topher's about to tell you how many times precisely we kicked it through the back of the end zone, since we had so many different opportunities.
None. We never kicked it out of the back of the end zone. They fair caught it, which is crazy. I don't know why any team would fair catch against us. Whatever. Mata is doing a great job, and the thing I want to point out is he's not crunching, and his ball is getting way up. Right? If you watch on his PATs, that ball is getting a lot higher, and he's definitely found his rhythm. He did an interview with DNVR, and he talked about how Coach Prime is great for specialists, as far as like if you miss a kick, he just goes up to you. He's like, "Don't worry, get the next one." Right? And as a specialist myself, I'm like, that is monumental. When your coach has faith and just like, you'll get the next one, it's crazy what it does for your mental game. So that's first point. Second point, we need to change our punt formation. We desperately need to change our punt formation. If we don't, we're going to get one blocked. And you heard it here first. We had 3 punts and we had 3 almost get blocked right up the middle every single time. And it's because we are in a position that we are just out leveraged right off the bat. I do not know what we are doing on our punt formation. And when you go on the rewatch, you will see we got a holding call, because if he didn't hold, it would have been blocked. And if we come out against that against K-State and get one blocked, I'm going to have an aneurysm on the show.
Now, anyone who's ever played punt block, you take that holding penalty 100% of the time, because if it means the difference between getting your punt blocked versus taking a holding penalty, you have to do it. But yeah, they're definitely getting home on that. And Topher, that can be I like to believe in our specialists. You like to predict bad things for our specialists. So hopefully you don't have the same.
I'm not predicting. I'm saying Mark Bassett's the great punter, but he's doing so in a situation where he doesn't need to, like, getting that ball off before it's blocked and still having that performance is great. I'd rather hit not even be close, so we can just take his time and get good punts. And that's on the special teams coordinator, not the specialists, to be clear.
Topher also wasn't alone. I think we were all critical of Mata after week 2, so no need to gang up on. You were too, big guy. Post the clip. But I will say, I think Chase and Topher deserve all the credit for why Mata has been going off. We DM with Mata and already asked if I can share this, but he loves the podcast, and he said, "Appreciate y'all, but I won't forget what Topher said. Don't worry." He posted Topher's face on his locker room, and he is on a mission this year to prove him wrong. So kudos to Chase and Topher for starting the movement.
Mata, I will buy your jersey from the NIL store, so that when we kick, I want you to sign that shit. All right? So hit me up after the season.
Real talk, that's a dog mentality. I love it. I love that Mata. So Mata, he likes all of our posts. Like I think we're mutual fans, man. He's seems like such a nice guy. And he's been supportive to us since the beginning. He followed us super early on. He's one of our early follow backs. And he saw that post. We saw that he liked it. And we're like, oh, okay. All right. We'll see if he was actually paying attention to it. And then he DM'd us and straight up told us like that he was using that as motivation. That's a dog mentality. I love it. If someone's going to talk, and he did say that he was looking to clean up some mechanical issues, right? I recall, and it seems like he has. And then as soon as he showed that he can do it, don't change your position now, right? Stay on that side. Stay on that side. No, but no, for real, it was great to see him perform like that, and 2 straight weeks too, because he had some huge PATs for us in that Baylor game that would have been devastating to miss, right? So, man, shout out to him. He deserves the love.
Absolutely, he
I'm
deserves
actually
love.
I'm gonna buy the Alejandro Mata jersey right now, and from the NIL store, and then I can truly be the #1 fan of our guy.
All right, next episode, Chase will be in a Mata jersey. You heard that here first.
I love it.
What do you got, Topher?
So yeah, on Mata's 46-yard field goal, I want to talk about the circumstances that led up to that 46-yard field goal. Right, we had 1 timeout left. We had just scored a field goal already, gave it back to them. Got a stop. They dropped the ball. We had another pass deflection, or no, they ran the ball, and then we called that last timeout to force them a punt. Jimmy Horn was able to catch it, get out of bounds. We ran a play, got out of bounds again, and made sure we gave Mata a chance. To me, that is showing coaching development as far as clock management is concerned. That is the exact right way to play that, to steal another 3 points at the end of the half. And so as much as we rag on Coach Prime for his poor clock management, he is showing the development there. And that gets me so hot and bothered.
Yeah, we're always so critical, but we should also give him the shout outs when it's and you're right. We stole 3 points, ended up kicking to him at half, and it felt like the game was different, right? It almost felt like they had to do something to get the game back into reach. They had to basically abandon the run. I think they ran their first couple of plays and then basically gave up on it, started throwing the ball more because and that's what you're talking about, Topher, as far as like setting the tone and making them play your game, right? You steal 3 more points there, and all of a sudden it's that much more out of reach going into the half. So it really does make a difference. I think more psychologically than anything else, right? It's not like I don't think it made a difference as far as number of possessions they were away, but definitely makes a difference as far as that's concerned. I do have to give, the listeners a shout out. I'm going to buy this Mata jersey, and it will be my second jersey ever with a player's name on it after my Cody Hawkins jersey, the greatest of all time, the greatest to ever play at the University of Colorado Boulder. Cody Hawkins, maybe a future coach. I think he's at Idaho State now these days.
He is indeed at Idaho State these days.
All right. I think does anyone have anything else? We're going to keep this one short. We do have Kansas State next week, and we have a super exciting guest. Topher has something.
Well, we missed the QF management players of the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We missed the QF management players of the game. Maybe we'll do a sick edit. Maybe we'll just leave this in as it is. But we do have our great sponsor, Q Wealth Management. Go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. We really appreciate them for continuing to sponsor us for a second season. On the offensive side, it could have gone probably 10 different ways. It could have gone to the offensive line as a unit retroactively, but we decided we have to give it to our guy, Will Shepard, who had a phenomenal game, not just on the statistics, but we already talked about this as far as a huge game for setting the tone for who he's going to be and who he is for this program. His first touchdown as a Colorado Buffalo, pretty exciting on him. On the defensive side, boy, this was one that could have gone a bunch of ways as well, including to Travis for probably the 15th time. Unfortunately, our 18-time defending champion,
Levante
Bentley can't win it every week. So I apologize to him, but we got to give it to Preston Hodge. Not because, it's just Preston Hodge's interception, like we talked about, was such a core moving, like game changing, momentum changing, huge play in that game. So we got to give it to him on the defensive side. And then on special teams, the one and only, my future jersey, Alejandro Mata, who was absolutely nails throughout the entire game. So got to give him a shout out on that. Jake is upset because apparently I just changed the defensive player of the game at the last minute, but I'm just going to close out the episode so you can't get back at that. So
shout out to Simon Craig.
Thank you everyone for listening. Please give us a follow on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. I know we keep saying that, but people are not following us on YouTube. Well, people are following us on YouTube, but we have bigger goals than that. So please keep following us on YouTube. Please comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And next week we'll have our prediction for K-State. We're leaving that out of this episode, as well as a super special guest that we're going to be bringing on. I'm looking forward. I think we have 3 or 4. I think we have 3 at least special guests scheduled to come on here in the near future. So look forward to that as well. With that being said, Go Buffs.
Go Buffs.
Buffs.